Broadcasting live from the Zimmer Communications World Headquarters. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Get ready, pal.
Here's your host, Randy Tobler.
Attention, everyone. Can I get everyone to form a human chain right here, please? We have Zionists that have entered the camp. My check! Repeat after me. We have Zionists. Who have entered the camp. We are going to create a human chain.
Yes, this is America's future leaders. Mid-Missouri. Welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. That is a organizer at the Columbia University Quadrangle at the encampment saying there's a Zionist at our doorstep.
And isn't that how you, train kindergartners? Repeat after me.
I can't. It is like Zombie Nation at Columbia University. Welcome in.
One of the lines they repeated, it sounded like they said, "We have the meats."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's Stephanie and producer Hannah and John Marsh, and I don't know where this thing is going, but I heard on one overnight newscast this thing that the reporter said the university protests are spreading by the minute, and who knows where this is going to go. Google fires employees. We'll be talking about that, who did a sit-in. We have some great news. Well, if you're a supporter of foreign aid out of the Senate yesterday, I think Stephanie will be covering that a little bit later. And it's official. Laird Veach, the new AD at MU. So all that mystery is gone. I guess there wasn't much mystery. Covered it a little bit
Speculation
yesterday.
Turned out to be true.
Yeah. So lots going on. I cannot. I ran across this on yesterday on Twitter, and I thought, my God, I can't believe this. These kids are like lemmings. I mean, they're just like, talk about the sheeple. Just repeat after me. We're going to form a human chain. It's very, very frightening what's going on. We're going to, at 7:10, Dan Swindell, who's a local Jewish activist, is going to tell us we've got some little dirt that went on the MU campus, and even within one classroom, and some professors' activities, according to Dan. So ahead of the game, I'm going to invite anyone who is on the other side of this discussion. We want to hear you guys weighing in. You can email us here at the station. You can call in at 573-874-9390. But we are going to have Dan Swindell in at 7:10. At 8:08, Susan Pendergrass from the Show Me Institute to help us unpack the recently passed education bill and what does it really mean and how can parents leverage it for their kiddies' benefit, right? I mean, we hear about these bills on the legislative side, but what does it really mean? We'll talk about that. And then a very important event coming up, Stephanie, next Wednesday. We're going to highlight that.
Yeah, our friend Kathy Fork, who's the organizer for Midwest March for Life, will join us and give us a heads up. So if you want, I'll be there at the Capitol next Wednesday. But if you want to join in, she's going to kind of give us a rundown of the speakers and what to expect at the state capitol.
Well, and we have an event next Tuesday.
That's right.
As well.
Oh, that's
exciting.
Nice.
The Show Me Institute has a big event. And if you're interested in what's going on in Missouri in terms of, economics and really getting into the weeds of it, not only in Missouri but nationally, Aaron Hedlund is going to be headlining along with other experts there at the Insiders Hour at the Show Me Institute. And that will be next Tuesday. That's next Tuesday, 12 to 1, the Insiders Hour with the Show Me Institute at the Country Club of Missouri on Woodrail Avenue. And it includes a lunch, and you can, Elias Tsapelis, is that right? Mm-hmm. Elias Tsapelis? I've talked with him briefly at the last Show Me event. Wow, really, these two guys together are a real economic powerhouse in terms of bringing you the what, the why, the wherefore, and the how to move forward in economic prosperity. So that'll be an interesting event. The Insiders Hour.
Yeah, you need to register and get a ticket. You can go to showmeinstitute.org, but Randy and I are both planning to be there. And my favorite really with Dr. Hedlund is always, he does a good job of allowing time for questions.
Yes.
And so several recent events that I've been at with him, just some really insightful stuff. And I think people have a lot of questions right now, especially when it comes to the economy. So I always appreciate that.
He's always the good one to decipher Bidenomics for us, isn't he?
Right.
And I want to ask him a little bit about the, if I get a chance, I want to ask him about, I read something the other day about the economic numbers and how when they look at these unemployment numbers, when you factor in the illegals that come into, they factor into the community surveys. They may not be in sort of the official schmishal data when it's all rolled out, and that's why a lot of the revisions are coming up. There's the household survey, there's the community survey, there's the business survey. He understands how these things are actually crunched and how they get to us, because I think we've talked about it. All of the revisions you see, I mean, tens of thousands in the unemployment numbers.
And then they don't really hardly get covered. So everyone just said, yay, new jobs. And then the next month they're like, actually, there weren't that many jobs. And everyone just moves on.
I know.
I don't understand how something can count in 1 month and then not count the next month. The other thing, I've been hearing a lot about this, and I think we're working to try to get a guest from Heritage on about this new Project 2025. And it came up for me in several different conversations, but they're really looking at getting people who are qualified to serve in a potential conservative administration. And Dr. Hedlund served under President Trump the first time. So I'm wondering, has he heard about this? Is he applying? Does he want to, serve in the next term? But I'm hoping he's heard about this and can tell me more too.
That's an interesting thought experiment. I think the guy that's heading up the Project 25 Heritage deal, I think he was director of the Office of Personnel with Trump the last year in 20. And interesting. It's like we learned a lot. We learned, you learn from what you don't know the first time around. And then when you go around the track the second time, you can press on the accelerator a little bit more. Boy, that was a mixed metaphor. I suddenly went to racing. But I wonder, he said, a lot of the real grinding of the government goes on with permanent employees, but they have to listen to what the political appointees say. And that's where I think they're getting prepared.
I think so. I think they want to hit the ground running. And
Yep.
I wish we had something. I wish we did more cleaning house on the state level as well when we switch administrations, especially from one party to the other, in that really a lot of the bureaucrats and the lower staff do have a lot of say over the department. We don't often, move those people around, even when things change pretty drastically.
That's a good point. And if they do move around, they just skip from state agency to state agency.
They do, and they have so much control that that it can make things really difficult. And you're like, wait a minute, didn't we just elect someone new? Why am I getting the same answer that I got? Whatever. And so, I think getting the amount of people that it's going to take in D.C. To do such a transition is enormous. I mean, the federal government's huge, and so getting the Biden people out and getting good conservatives in, and you got to move people there, and you want qualified people. You don't want to pick people off the street. You don't want. I mean, you do want some young people, but you need some really heavy hitters too, and so I'm excited that they're working on that.
So I'm going to be asking each of you something here that's important. And because as I think about this
got me in trouble yesterday. I'm not sure I want to participate.
No, as I think about this now, one of the disappointing things that the gentleman said, I hope we can get him or someone else on that project on, because I really want to delve into this thing. Some people that may be listening may like to throw their hat in the ring. Okay, that's where I'm going with this. But he said like 98. It was a ridiculously high number. 98%, 98.5. These people are protected. They can't be fired. A lot of the fourth state, as I call it, not the fourth estate, the journalism, but the fourth state or the fourth branch of government, which is the bureaucracy. They're protected by civil laws of some type. I don't know if it's necessarily unions, but I think it has something to do with employment. Okay, so John, let's start with you. Theoretically, he's looking for an Office of Communications Director for the White House. And they come and they tap on John Marsh's door and say, John, it would mean moving up to D.C., but you'd be able to shake hands with the president. You'd be directing. You might even be up at the podium once in a while in the briefing room. And would you say, yeah? Would you toss your hat in the ring? Would you send your resume in?
Would I have to get the same perm as the current White House spokesman?
I'll have to circle back around you on that one.
Sign me up.
Okay, so I know
my way around D.C. It's been a year.
So you take the leap. What would your lovely wife say about that?
See ya.
All right. Okay. But what about the loyalty factor that has been a problem with Donald Trump? Where you uproot, you move up there, you lose your job here.
All kidding aside, the job security in the Trump administration, both the governmental side and the private side, you're fired, I think is what he used to say on the TV show.
But you'd still throw your hat in the ring. Okay.
Oh, sure. Why not?
All right. Producer Hannah, they need a new leader for NPR because that gal's a disaster. Or the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and they knock on producer Hannah's door because people until April 29th, the last voting day, voted for on-air personality on the Best of Como. How was that for a nice segue?
That was smooth.
And they've read that you won the Best of Columbia on-air personality, and they say, hey, we'd like you to head up the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the National Public Radio. Hannah, the producer, what say you?
That's probably going to be a no from me.
Why?
Kind of sounds like a bleep show at the moment. I don't know if I want to inherit that mess.
But you could mold things. You could really.
I don't know what I'm doing.
You could push it in a new direction. Oh,
There you go.
Oh, now that's a real endorsement
You could
for
do
herself.
those long investigative news pieces about TikTok.
There we go. There's not going to be a TikTok by then, apparently.
Well, after yesterday's findings, maybe that would be for the best.
That's a no for you. That's a no for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think so.
All right.
I think
Stephanie.
if called to serve, you say yes.
Yeah.
I think it's the highest
If
call.
you run
if
as
the
legal
president
team,
calls to serve,
Yeah.
you
say yes. You
say
drop
yes.
what you're doing.
You find a way.
Attorney General Steph.
There we go.
Well, we have been
look
getting
at that.
Moving on up.
Attorney
But
General
what, Randy,
AG Stephanie
Randy,
Bell.
what about you? I mean, what if the president needs someone to do his physical review to say he's the healthiest, strongest, fittest, tannest, most beautiful
Surgeon General.
Have you
80-year-old you've ever seen in your life?
have you seen my Twitter handle? It says Truth Seeker, Woke Destroyer. I'm sorry. I would love to be involved in policy making at the federal level. I think there's a lot of things that in the name of innovation, they're not doing right. They call it innovation, but it's too much control by the government. It's not truly free market innovation. So I'd love to do it. I think I'd jump at it. I don't know.
Randy would be the White House fashion correspondent.
Wow.
What do you
Surgeon
mean?
General.
He gets really worked up about what people wear on
No,
TV.
I don't. No, I don't.
And their
Randall,
face.
yes,
you
do.
I just get worked up about people that ruin their appearance by doing this injection, whatever they do.
Or wear plaid coats.
Well, I don't. Never mind. Okay.
I think the question this sends out there to the Wake Up family is, who's going to be left to do the morning show without us?
That's right. That's right.
All right. Well, a little fun this morning as we talk about what we hope, what we pray, what we're on our knees every day praying will be a change in administration. Senator Chuck Schumer after passage of a bill last evening. It's time for the Daily DC Rundown, Stephanie.
The bill passed the Senate yesterday, $95 billion in emergency foreign aid. It passed by a vote of 79-18. It's headed to President Biden's desk. Of course, it does include that TikTok ban. We're going to be talking a lot about, this isn't really going to be the Daily DC Rundown. It's just going to be the court rundown. Because as we know, TikTok's going to sue. They've sued before on similar things. They are going to try to find a way out of this. There are some options, but it all came on pretty fast. I think they thought after the last round it was dead, and then it kind of revived itself and is on its way to the president's desk.
How did it sneak into an aid bill? Was it under the umbrella of national security or what?
I'm not sure. I am not sure. And I don't know that TikTok's sure either.
Okay.
Either way, they're going to court.
So they sue?
They've said they will.
And what does that mean then?
I don't
a federal judge could put a stay on it and then push this thing off.
Potentially.
Yeah, okay.
We'll keep our eye on that. Also, yesterday we had some arguments in the Trump trial on the gag order. We didn't get a ruling yesterday, so we will are expecting that in short order. But for now, the trial continues. I believe Mr. Pecker is still on the witness stand, and his testimony will continue today. We will also be hearing a lot about Trump and the courts from SCOTUS. SCOTUS argument tomorrow, Thursday, about Trump and criminal immunity. They'll be deciding the question of whether Trump can be criminally liable about the conspiring to overturn.
So that's the D.C. case that Smith is bringing?
Because
there's a D.C. case, there's a Florida case, there's a Georgia case, and there's a Manhattan case.
And we've heard some of these immunity arguments again, but that will be back before SCOTUS. Today, SCOTUS is also, if you recall, SCOTUS has already heard an abortion pill case. This is a different case regarding out of Idaho, regarding whether a federal emergency law supersedes abortion bans in states. That's kind of an emergency argument that happens today.
Oh, so the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So that goes to court today. Also, I had been anticipating this decision for a long time now, and I'm really actually kind of excited about it. I don't really like anything that comes out of the Biden administration, but yesterday, the Federal Trade Commission voted in a close vote by a vote of 3-2 to ban most non-competes.
Whoa!
Yeah, and they had talked about doing it for a really long time. Of course, the businesses say they're going to sue over this because they don't want the government micromanaging their business. And they say, look, if we want to contract with our employees to tell them they can't go work somewhere else, we should be able to do that. And I would typically fall on that side, but I also fall on like the side of individual rights, and especially for lower level people. If you're, oftentimes you're in a profession, it's the only thing you know. You're basically coerced into signing this because you need a job, and then suddenly, you can get fired for whatever reason, and now you can't go out and get a job in the industry, the only industry that you know. I think it can really penalize people. I think there's a time and a place for non-competes, especially at higher levels and with customer lists and stuff. But I've seen them used abusively and represented people against their use here in Missouri, and I think they can be quite damaging to the individual. And so actually, I haven't waded through the rule. Apparently they received like 25,000 comments on this rule. So people are really invested, but this is also likely to head to court.
That is a big deal because I think in the medical circles, they say it costs like $250,000 to onboard a doc,
Yeah.
And you lose at least that much when a doc leaves. And if they leave to a competing entity within your community, think about right here in Columbia or in Jefferson City. You got a couple of hospitals. One doc wants to move from one place to another. You get a bidding war, and it's a protection against that. On the other hand, campus near you. In fact, we have some whisperings and reportings. I have some on the background with our guest that'll be coming up at 7:08. Dan Swindell will join us. He's a Jewish activist in the area about some of the things going on in the MU campus concerning this. And I don't know whether this thing is going to really blow up into like a late 60s, early 70s mass, American uprising, or if it's just going to be a little flash in the pan. Not sure.
Yeah, I've been thinking about my friends in administration. And, if you're sitting there watching what's happening on TV at a university, maybe that hasn't caught the contagion yet, are you getting meetings together to try to say, this is what our plan is should this come here? I think you probably should be. I think you should be really prepared because it looks like it's just spreading like, wildfire. But if you don't have a plan, I think you've done a disservice to your campus. And I think there are certain places where I saw it on Twitter where it's just like, yep, they showed up and they were cleared out and arrested by 9 a.m. and gone.
Well, there's been a lot of arrests already on these various camps, but that doesn't seem to be squashing the events. I mean, they're only growing. And but now there's been calls by the entire New York congressional delegation, to fire the Manoush Shafik, who is the president of Columbia College. Here is this woman when she was shortly after 9/11. Shortly after 9/11. So go back 23 years. I don't know where the forum was, but this was an event just a couple of months after 9/11. And this is the current president, who, of course, then was probably working her way up on the academic ladder. A little bit of a preview of things to come as we're seeing it unfold.
So it's not, you'll always have individuals who will have extreme views. But what's really troubling in the region is that there's actually quite a broad base of society which has some sympathy for the terrorists, not so much because they approve of their methods, but it's a form of protesting against a system which is not delivering for them on the economic or the political front.
Yeah, so if it's not delivering for you on the economic or political front, it's just a form of protest. Now, she did say it's troubling, to give her credit there, but I think it was a little bit of a presage of what's going to come. And she just totally lost control of the campus. It's just totally gone. And you see these tent cities. And now there's reporting that it's being funded by a lot of Soros money.
Are you surprised?
No, I'm not surprised.
I saw some stats yesterday on Twitter, and they said 5 out of the 8 Ivy League schools, 9 out of the 14, and 11 out of 18 fall 2024 of the Big Ten schools. And this guy says, hats off to the SEC with 0 out of 16. And then Mary Catherine Hammett, she's on Fox a lot. She said, decisions to indoctrinate my children into SEC football over Ivy Hamas-friendly ideology looking better every day. Our encampments come with wings and kegs and cornhole instead of anti-Semitism.
Amen. Amen. Let's hope that it stays that way.
Gary Nolan had a good point yesterday, and he brought up the angle. And Gary's got some, Middle Eastern background in his ethnicity. I think his mom was Lebanese. And he talked about how the Arab states, Egypt and Jordan and all of them, they don't want any part of the Palestinians, and they don't like them. Yep.
You're absolutely right. I think of Walid Faris, who was an advisor to Donald Trump and he's both an academic as well as an outspoken critic of Hamas and Hezbollah and all those. He grew up in war-torn, bombing in, tenements that he was living in, and his parents were in Lebanon. He's a Lebanese Christian. And I think people clearly know what the score is there. I don't understand what drives these kids at academic institutions. Shouldn't they be about truth-seeking, about looking at facts, and about trying to at least understand the other side? I mean, we played it earlier. Instead, they're being led like sheep over the cliff, by academic professors who are very activist and who I think manipulate them, without integrity. That's not intellectual integrity. When you abuse your authority over a student and sort of like, what's the subliminal message? This is my stance. You better follow me or else.
And I mean, obviously we need to do a better job of educating people, because these are the same students who, show, and I think some of the universities, they walk a fine line, right? These are the same people who have shown up when there's a conservative speaker on campus and literally shouted them down and basically said, you're not allowed to speak in any way that, offends me, which is, obviously wrong. And now here, I mean, they're showing up in ways that are violent and disruptive. But as a university, you want to foster free speech.
Yep.
And as conservatives, we've been very clear. These students cannot control your campus and cannot control, cannot come in and shout down speakers that they disagree with. And so we have to be, if these people are peacefully protesting, then we have to respect the First Amendment in that way. But it's not really what's happening here.
The good news is when we talked with Locke Thompson, to bring it back home here, when we talked to Locke Thompson, a couple of weeks ago, he didn't say what was happening, but he said he couldn't talk about an investigation of those, the rabble-rousers, the protesters that, did more than bump into Jay Ashcroft and Jennifer.
The one that kind of grabbed him, kind of tried to pull him down. Yeah, that's what the prosecutor said. It was ongoing case kind of thing.
And Jennifer Bukowski was at that event. I guess there had been an Israeli speaker at the Capitol, and then there was a fundraiser across the street or nearby. And she said she didn't feel safe, So it's like you say, it's one thing to have a peaceful protest, people walking around with their signs, even if they're chanting, that's fine. But when you start making it a physical altercation, that just crosses the line.
And when a certain group of students starts to feel legitimately unsafe to even show up to class, I think we've got a real problem.
Or is that just a cheap excuse? Because I myself, as a college student, I dabbled in those cheap excuses to skip class.
What do you mean?
I think here there are real concerns about safety.
Yeah, I don't know. I
think part of it, and they're college kids, and it's one of those kind of deals. If this is the hip happening thing going on, great way to meet girls. I'm serious.
Adolescents and young people are especially just vulnerable social animals, right?
Kind of dumb sometimes.
They want to be together in groups. They sort of mindlessly follow the group and do group things. I mean, we have gangs. Gangs. Isn't this just a different construct of a gang in a sense? I mean, I want to be a part of the group. And then you get involved in this maybe at the periphery, and there's a certain zone of inclusion into this group that then when you go, I don't know, then you're scapegoated if you threaten to leave, and then it gets dangerous because that's how these things grow. Well, Google is getting it right. They fired more workers after the CEO said the workplace isn't for politics. I didn't know if you'd seen this. As much problem as I have with Google, and we've talked about their, being part of a collusory Biden administration censorship by proxy, Google fired 20 more workers, now totaling more than 50, after they had done a sit-in at Google's offices in New York City and Sunnyvale, California.
Oh, boy. Is that a lawsuit waiting to happen?
Well, I don't know. Now, that's something, I've said it before, and I don't know whether this is, do you think that, let's say you're a small business owner, and you're a conservative, and you walk out in the parking lot, and it's getting the election season is heating up, and Biden wants to raise taxes on you. We've seen now, we talked with Brad Jones about how there's some new regulation where small businesses, if you're organized in an LLC, you're going to have to, they're trying to get at money laundering. So you have to do all kinds of new reporting, and it's going to be all kinds of paperwork. Okay, so you walk out in the parking lot and you see on the bumper stickers, you do a bumper sticker audit. You're like, oh, I see Joe gets out of that Prius in the morning.
Only liberals put bumper stickers on.
And has a climate change and, Biden Kamala sticker.
The coexist sticker.
Why shouldn't you be able to fire that person? Just say, I don't, I want conservatives.
Take that Hillary sticker off your Tesla or else, Larry.
Wait a minute. Hey, look at the screen. Would you please do that, what you just did, Stephanie? Stephanie just did the eye roll emoji. Why can't you do that? Political ideology is not a protected class, is it?
No.
If I make it clear that I just want conservatives working for me, what's wrong with that? I don't want you working for me if you're woke.
I don't have a problem with that.
And in fact, if I find out you're woke, I'm probably going to fire you because I don't want woke people working for you. I should have that right. I'm writing the paycheck.
But is that not like a violation of freedom of speech?
Well, I don't think so.
Not the government.
Workplace, it's a private company.
Yeah.
And in Missouri, we're a right to work. We're what's it called when you fire someone?
Free will.
Yeah, free will. You're right. unless there's
Or
a contract and at will.
At
right.
will employment.
So there's if you have a, and I'm not saying I frankly am probably the most diverse hiring person ever. I don't care what you do. Do you deliver the goods? Do you make
Except you have to be a conservative.
Well, that generally goes hand in hand, but that's another thing. No, I mean if you as an employee are making the patient experience in my business, or if you're making the customer experience, if you're making that a good, positive experience uniformly, I don't care. I don't care about that. Which
Good
is
for
what
the bottom line.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the bottom line is the customer experience.
I mean, we have a diverse employment group here at Zimmer,
Yeah.
right? But we do have like shared cultural values, and they're written on the wall out here. Like this is what we believe as a company. Now, those don't have anything to really do with politics, but I think at certain times, I think if you, especially amongst a small business, you want to have a shared culture and a shared value, not in a way that, and sometimes that could include people of different political backgrounds, but I think in some ways could be a definer that maybe does fall down on in certain companies that does fall down on.
And I make that argument. I'm not saying I would do that, but I'm just saying people ought to have the right to do that. If you're writing a check, you're providing.
I think you do have the right.
You should have the right. I may disagree with it. I mean, I may think, oh my gosh, what are you thinking? You're losing a good swath of American workers that just happen to don't agree with you ideologically. But if that's your choice, that should be. The government should not have its nose in private business.
Except for when
a perfect example would be if Randy got on the air and started expounding on the rightness of the woke take politically, you'd be standing tall before management.
That's right.
You would.
That's right. And I'm going to mandate starting tomorrow that all of us have to have blue hair and rings in our eyebrows. What do you think?
We could be the mayor of Columbia.
Does that mean that John also has to dye his mustache?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking maybe a rainbow mustache John.
There you go.
Getting back to, I do think that makes this non-compete thing pretty hard because you're saying, government should not be micromanaging my business. At the same time, I think for a lot of people, I think even on the conservative side, they would cheer the fact that the federal government just, kicked a lot of non-competes. And it's been proposed actually amongst I want to say Senator Fitzwater had a bill a couple years ago to limit the use of non-competes here in Missouri. It's been been proposed here at the state level.
I'll have to talk to Travis about that the next time we have him on, because I don't know.
Big in the broadcasting biz.
Let's say John decides to become an indentured servant for Stephanie Bell. He's going after the show. After the show every day, they sign a contract. Stephanie is, let's say, just theoretically, Stephanie runs
contracts which are illegal are just automatically void. But okay.
Well, okay, I shouldn't call it an indentured servant. But let's say that the contract says that John must, as soon as he gets off the air, cook you an eggs Benedict with carrot cake and whatever, and he must do that, or else forfeit half of his salary if he doesn't.
Empty the trash cans at Ellinger Bell.
If John agrees to do that and you agree to pay him for that, what does the government have to say about that? That's between two private individuals.
Well, the government says a lot about that.
I'm being absurd to argue the point.
Yeah.
I walked in today, and all I could think of was
the
this.
hot cheese balls.
It's a beautiful day in this neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine?
See, we need a little Fred Rogers,
I
don't
used
we?
to watch that. That brings back good memories.
Randy put on his sweater and his slippers and be good to go.
I grew up, well, no, I didn't grow up. The kids grew up watching that. And, I think there's something nice about Fred. We don't have a lot of Fred. We have a lot of vitriol these days.
A lot of screaming.
Fred Perry.
I was going to say, we've got a Fred.
We got Fred Perry. No, but we don't have Fred Rogers. Well, Fred's sort of sometimes a beautiful day in the
Mr.
neighborhood.
Perry's neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's it, Mr. Perry's neighborhood. Sometimes Fred gets a little bit on the city leadership and stuff, but, he keeps an eye on it. Do you know, I wonder what's on Fred's show this week. Fred, if you're listening, let us know what's on this week. I always enjoy that, the CEO Roundtable. So at any rate, it is going to be a beautiful day today. I think high just tipping above 70. But then moving in tomorrow, I guess through the weekend, some funky weather. Is that right, Producer Hannah? I think thunderstorms and rain.
Yeah, some rain. Thunderstorms on Friday, maybe. I don't know necessarily the severity, but
as long as it's not hailing poop from the skies, as John.
I think a lot of people yesterday had kind of a gutter check because I know at least in Jefferson City, all of a sudden the sky opened up and it came down and I saw, I think you need to clean your gutters out because it was coming down there for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, John, that story haunted me last night. I actually had a bad dream about that. John talked about the airlines and the poop coming down, and
new fear unlocked.
I don't know why did that wake me up. That's a terrible thing. Speaking of solid waste, Columbia is exchanging roll carts. Did you see that?
Yeah, what's up with this story?
I don't know.
Mike Murphy was reporting this, and it's like, didn't we just hand them out? They're brand new.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of wonder if folks are maybe realizing they got the wrong size, maybe?
I think that
could be because they have, 3 size options?
Yeah, they may have just sort of under or overestimated what they need, and they don't want to pay for it, or they need more and they're willing to pay for it. But
yeah,
that's kind of how I understood it.
And I would guess that it was underestimated because most weeks I'm like cramming. I mean, if there was a bigger size in Ashland, I would probably need it. But I think, it's
campuses, Columbia, New York University, Yale, over on the West Coast as well, spilling into the streets of New York City. And I ask the question, is it already in or has it come to a fair city of ours in Missouri, right here in mid-Missouri? And in fact, I contacted Dan Swindell, who's a local activist for the Jewish community, and it turns out that, well, I think that's the case. Welcome to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, Dan.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All righty. Hey, let's get right into it. You sent me some information about a protest that you were organizing and that took place on April 10th, right?
April 5th was that.
April 5th.
I'm sorry, we had another event on April 10th.
And well, I call it a protest, but I mean it was not a violent protest.
No.
What was it to proclaim or to protest against or for?
So the University of Missouri Journalism School has a place called the Reynolds Institute, and they host an event called the Pitcher of the Year Award. The Pitcher of the Year Award is decided by a panel of judges, and they choose a pitcher to give an award called the Pitcher of the Year. They actually have a few different pitchers that get the award, but this year they gave an award called the Team Story of the Year to a pitcher of a murdered Israeli girl. Her name was Shani Luke. She was murdered in the back of a truck, and in the picture, she's sitting in a truck, and they called them Hamas militants, but Hamas terrorists have her in the back of the truck, and her half-naked body is in the truck, and Hamas terrorists have their feet on top of her. They're kind of basically sitting on her dead body,
and the body was disjointed. The knees were backwards. I mean, it was a horrid picture. It was a horrid picture.
Yeah.
I mean, she was just not dismembered, but disjointed. Okay, and that picture had been seen at the time, but then this was given with the picture of the year.
It was one of the pictures of the years
by the Reynolds by a competition sponsored by the Reynolds Institute of Journalism.
Yes.
School of Journalism. Okay, so you thought that was inappropriate and you were going to organize a protest.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us more.
So a lot of us thought it was very inappropriate to give an award to a picture of a half-naked murdered Jewish girl with Hamas terrorists' feet on top of her in Gaza.
And what did the Reynolds School of Journalism say in response?
The school defended their decision. They did not seem to care or be interested in our protest. We formed a group in front on the side of the building. We don't block entrances. We don't scream at people. We don't do anything threatening. And we stayed on the side of the building, and we had a protest of about 20 people.
Okay.
And we just simply called for the school to revoke the reward, to give it back. We don't think that the award should be given to that pitcher. We think it was disgraceful.
Okay, well, let's fast forward to the goings-on across campuses. I think we've all been asking our questions. What's going on? Are you hearing murmurs, or is there any evidence of anti-Israeli, anti-Semitic, so-called pro-Palestinian or pro-Hamas protests going on in the University of Missouri campus, inside or outside the buildings?
I believe so.
Okay, tell us.
On a weekly basis, a group called Students for Justice in Palestine has been having protests at the University of Mizzou. Every week they have these protests. And even if they were to say that it's not anti-Semitic, it's become this catchphrase now, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That's referring to the geographical border of the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River. That's where the land of Israel, or the state of Israel, is located. So if you call for the area from the Mediterranean Sea to the Jordan River to be replaced with Palestine, then you're calling for the destruction of Israel.
Okay. All right. Now, what got me extremely interested was you sent me a screenshot of a post by a Drew McCausland.
Yeah.
Drew McCausland. Yeah. Is he part of this group?
Yes.
And what is Drew McCausland's day job?
Drew McCausland works as a Methodist minister, I believe, at the church on Wilkes Boulevard, where they have the Loaves and Fishes near Hickman.
A nice outreach, the Loaves and Fishes.
Yeah.
Okay. But he's a Methodist minister?
Sure, yes.
Okay. And he is involved in these protests?
Yes.
Very interesting. And you sent me a picture where he's wearing one of these keffiyehs?
Yes, It's called a keffiyeh. It's kind of a black and white checkered cloth that people wear around their neck in solidarity with Palestinians.
Yeah. Has he made any overtly anti-Semitic statements that you are aware of?
Well, he's been sharing from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which is a well-known call for the
a proxy
destruction of
for
Israel.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
Mike Murphy joins us now.
Absolutely a proxy. When you see that you're seeing that.
That's right.
But we've seen it before. There's the Democrat Socialist group on campus have used it. It's been at City Hall. It's on their website. It's been popping up for months now in Columbia. So,
all right. Dan Swindell joins us now, Jewish community activist here in Columbia. As we watch things develop across the nation, it seems by the hour these protests grow. They become more vocal, in some cases violent, spilling into the streets, and we're just trying to monitor it and keep an eye on it. And he joins us here in Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Dan, shalom. And what's up with college students right now? Are they learning nothing in their history classes? What about the 6-Day War? What about Yasser Arafat and the Palestine Liberation Organization that killed people? The Munich massacre at the Olympics and all. I think they need to get their heads on straight.
Yeah, I think that there's a slow attempt to rewrite the history of Israel and the history of the wars. I think that's just a constant ongoing process that doesn't change, and it's even happening now.
Well, we look at what happened in the 30s, right, with Kristallnacht and the youth movement among the Nazis, right?
Right.
I mean, maybe that's a bit of a stretch to say we're there, but I mean, I just get there's too much overt anti-Semitism. They've shut down Columbia University campus and now made it, well, either hybrid or remote for the rest of the semester. The kids are running the school.
Right. I would even go so far as to say that they, this is how I see it. When you're asking if they're sharing any messages that are anti-Semitic, so they're constantly saying stop the genocide. That in and of itself is a lie about the state of Israel. There is no genocide, and this can be factually demonstrated. It's absolutely, completely a lie. There is no genocide at all. It's a completely made-up, fictional lie about the Jewish people. So that in itself, if you're lying about Jewish people, then that's an anti-Semitic statement.
Well, although I think it's fair to say that it is a reality that in the fog of war, bullets go astray, bombs hit buildings, despite warnings to clear the area, which the Jewish Army, the IDF, has been renowned worldwide for trying to give protection to civilians. People are so-called innocent civilians are going to be caught in the fog of war, and they're going to perish.
Right.
That's different than mass genocide.
That's very different, right? So the word genocide comes from the word gene, and side, like homicide, is to murder, right? So it means to try and eliminate an entire gene, an entire group of people.
Yeah.
There is nothing like that happening. That is complete fiction.
Okay, now you told me about another instance that it troubled me, and this involves a Dr. Tabitha Violet at the school. Tell us that story.
So Dr. Tabitha Violet is a professor in the Women's and Gender Study Department.
Did you say Women and Gender Studies Department? Do we have that at Missouri University?
Yes.
Oh. I'm okay with women's studies.
Okay.
Gender studies?
I believe that's what
okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I got diverted there. Go ahead.
So we hosted an event on April the 10th where we brought 4 survivors of the Hamas massacre on October 7th. So there were 4 Israelis that survived the Hamas massacre, and they were going to be speaking at the University of Missouri. And we put up flyers. And all the flyers said is that Hamas, it did say Hamas is a radical terrorist organization. On October 7th, Hamas massacred 1,200 Israeli civilians.
Objectively true.
Objectively facts. And that they killed people at a musical festival. And we're bringing 4 of them to speak. Come hear them speak. From what I understand, this was shared by a Jewish student. We hung a flyer that said that in different classrooms. Some of the classrooms have advertisement boards.
Yeah, the little cork boards.
The little cork boards, yeah.
Okay.
So that flyer was hanging in a class. This class, as far as I know, has absolutely nothing to do with the Israeli-Palestinian situation. And Professor Tabitha Violet saw it, yelled to her class, "This is racist."
That's a verbatim quote per the Jewish student reporting to you, okay?
Yeah.
This is racist.
Tore it down and threw it in the trash can. And the Jewish student was very hurt by that statement and took a picture of it in the trash can. So this really happened. It was posted in some Facebook groups, and a lot of us have emailed. I know a lot of people have emailed the University of Missouri. I have not received a single email back. as far as I know, no
You've
one.
emailed who? Dr. Gibson?
Dr. Gibson.
Maurice Gibson.
Yeah.
Who is who?
I believe he's the.
the Vice Chancellor of, oh my God, Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity.
All right,
but
other people have tried to email different chancellors, different things like that.
Yeah.
Different groups have sent out different emails. I don't know anybody that's gotten a response. Maybe some people have gotten a response, but as far as I'm aware, absolutely nothing happened.
Okay, we only have a couple minutes left, and I know Mike would like to ask a question.
No, I don't have a question. I'm just marvel at what's going on. I've been watching it myself. I went down to Earth Day on Sunday and saw that the demonstrations haven't broke out yet, but the presence is huge, and I found it like rattling. It's this overt the genocide, exaggeration, lie, whatever you want to call it. The support for Palestine thing openly on the streets. It seems over the top, like just a while back. The American left, the far left, is losing their minds, I think, in some of this battle against all in support of all oppressed.
We talked about it yesterday, Mike and Dan. Don't you imagine, just taking a rough guess here, that if you looked at the Venn diagram of the worldview in terms of LGBTQ, universal basic income, socialist, Marxist, of one group of people, and the Palestinian supporters, the anti-Israel, don't you think those Venn diagrams would overlap?
That's exactly what it is.
So what would happen if the LGBTQ crowd went over to Palestine, so-called Palestine?
Yeah.
They'd be stoned to death. They'd be murdered, right? Look at what happens in Iran. Well, if you're gay, you're in trouble.
That's correct.
It's to Marsh's point. They don't know I think it's just fashionable.
Yeah,
I think it's mindless and fashionable.
It's the vibe, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Okay, well, we got to run, but again, if people want to learn more, where can they stay in touch with the activism for the Jewish community and what's going on campus and other things in the area?
So, it's called the Chabad House. It's
Okay.
It's CHABAD. Rabbi Avraham Lapine. You can reach out to him.
We need a contact. We need a digital contact.
Jewish Tigers, I believe.
Okay.
Is the Jewish Tigers. Is
all right.
the
Well, and if you want to give out any more information, let me know. Okay. Hey, thank at the whole, what pictures are appropriate and what aren't that we just touched on with Dan. Mike Murphy will be back then to join us. What's hot with Hannah now?
Well, it's kind of, I'm bringing the literal sense of the word hot to what's hot with Hannah today.
Spicy or thermally hot?
Thermally.
Thermally hot, okay.
Yeah, and it is maybe a purchase that Stephanie Bell would be interested in.
Oh.
One of the things that we love to give her grief for is her hatred of little warm puppies.
Or knockoff Stanley Cup?
That is not a knockoff.
Is that a real Stanley Cup?
No, it's just a
Yeti?
coffee mug.
Oh, okay.
Sandwiches.
So she loves puppies. Yes, we know.
Well, yeah, loves to hate little warm puppies. But there is a company based out of Ohio that is now selling robotic dogs. And
Really?
if you've been a member of the Wake Up family for a while, remember Spot the robot who got to dance with Marching Mizzou at one of the football games? It's like a knee-high yellow robot dog that they control.
Oh, now
Kinda creepy.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Really creepy.
Stephanie was really scared by those, and so we surprised her in studio with Spot the robotic dog.
Oh, really?
That's a way throwback.
He came right in here, and then he was doing the twerking out there with our friends from Y107. But he's got some weight on him, though. I mean, they said he was like 80 pounds, and when his foot hit the ground, you kind of felt like, if he stepped on your foot, it would hurt.
Had some serious gravitas.
Is it a he or a, I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't get a good look. But this company isn't the same company that made that specific Spot the robotic dog. This company is called Throwflame, and they have brought out robotic dogs that have flamethrowers attached to their back.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, it can shoot flames up to 30 feet and would cost you under 10 grand.
Flamethrowing robot dog.
Yeah, for $9,400.
Wow.
That'll clear out the protesters on the quad.
Or it'll clear out the cops trying to arrest the protesters. Get a few of those dressed up with the keffiyehs on them. I don't know.
So talk about, the ultimate home defense, right? Some people get big dogs.
I like that.
For home defense.
Oh, I like it.
This combines home defense with flamethrowers, which is just really cool. And if you're worried about the legality of owning one of these, don't worry, because owning a flamethrower is legal in 49 of the 50 United States.
Really?
Just ask Bill Eigel.
Yeah. And Maryland is the outlier, if anyone's wondering.
Is it? Yeah.
And Valentina Gomez, I think, and she kind of went viral for flamethrowing books, I think. So very exciting. I can't wait for this year's commercials. Last in the Senate cycle, we had a chainsaw, a flamethrower, a baseball bat.
Yeah, they basically
Greitens in his machine gun.
Yeah. They were trying to one up each other, and it was beautiful.
Flame-throwing robots. $9,400?
Yeah.
That seems cheap. No, if it has full robotic functions, that seems like a lot of technology for that.
10 grand for a real dog.
school district for you, for your children's education. So we'll get into some of that then. And Kathy Fork from Midwest March for Life, which is next Wednesday. And Stephanie's going to be one of the speakers at that rally, right?
Yep.
Joining us at 8:35. A reminder that the Show Me Institute will be having an insiders event next Tuesday. Stephanie and I will be there.
A luncheon.
And it'll be fun. Luncheon, if you like lunch. Who doesn't like lunch? I do.
It's going to be at the...
If you like lunch.
I wonder. Well, I always like lunch at a business meeting or at an event. I like to eat. Well, I learn better when I'm eating.
Until you get food on you and then you get embarrassed.
Do you think they'll have string cheese?
No. It's at CCMO Country Club of Missouri, and they always have delicious
Do they have good food? Yeah,
yes.
okay. So you can register at showmeinstitute.org. And Chief Economist Aaron Hedlund and Director of State Budget and Fiscal Policy Elias Tsapelis will be there from Show Me. And there'll be a Q&A session. I'll be moderating that. So we'll be having a lot of fun over there next Tuesday, April 30th at the Country Club of Missouri. Insiders Hour. Don't forget Tuesday voting. Right? Is that right? Tuesday voting ends the 29th? Is that Tuesday? No, Monday.
No, that's Sunday.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Time's
right.
a-ticking.
So, yeah, you better get your votes in for Mike Murphy for celebrity. I mean, Hannah, producer Hannah, as Celebrity Air Talent of the Year. And you really want to do that. I mean, it's really a great honor for her to be on the ballot there. So
it is my first time.
And you deserve it. You absolutely deserve it. That's what you told me to say. And
no, I didn't.
No, you did not. No, I don't gratuitously give out comments. You know that. You know that. Compliments aren't worth anything if they're just given out, gratuitously. That doesn't work.
Right.
Unless they're attached to your Venmo, but okay.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. I have to watch it. I got myself in trouble because I got a little wild hair yesterday after on air it was exposed that Hannah probably has a little bit of a TikTok dependence problem.
No.
Yeah. And so, but HR, I took her to HR and we talked with Becky about maybe some TikTok's anonymous for her. We'll see if we can get her signed up.
Yeah, and our big boss just happened to be in the office, so thank you for that.
Weighed in.
Yeah, thanks for that.
She wants to audit. She wants a time report from you, right? Time study?
Yeah, she said I need to send her my weekly screen time reports.
All right, speaking of gratuitous, before we get too far off the mark here, we were talking about, we just talked with Dan Swindell about this controversy of the Reynolds Journalism School sponsoring this Photo of the Year award and this terrible picture of the Hamas, that October 7th picture of a young Israeli girl who was there for the movie, for the music festival, and her body with the legs all, not dismembered, but disjointed, laying in the back of a pickup truck, and that was among the finalists. And the question comes up, Mike, from a journalistic standpoint, I mean, it is news. How do you decide? You've been in journalism and forever. I mean, how do you decide what to print and what not to print in the print journalism world?
I followed that. It's purely a judgment call, actually, at that point. And I don't know their conversation. I am not privy to their conversation, but I could estimate it. In good faith, what I believe happened is they would debate the value of. So photojournalism, the purpose is to bring home the grit, the reality, the emotion of, if you can do that in a photo, it's what makes you great as a photojournalist. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, so I can relate it back to the old days of newspapers where, people would go out to car accidents. Mm-hmm. The argument is if you show a graphic car accident, it helps discourage kids from driving poorly. It helps relate to people the horrors of a car accident. And people need to kind of know that. And the value of photojournalism in the newspaper is to kind of bring that home. But then if it's too graphic, we would say violates community standards back in the day when there was communities.
And standards.
Yeah. You would have to make that call. And it's an editor's call based on, the person in charge or the team in charge. And I think typically throughout history, we would err on the side of publishing and taking the heat, which inevitably would happen, to a point. And then there was a point where you just wouldn't do it. And it's kind of like, well, I would relate it to pornography. I can't exactly describe it, but I know it when I see it, right? And I think it's that kind of a call. And in defense of the Reynolds journalism people this time around, and it's one of the few times I actually find myself defending them, I'm not sure how to make that call or how I would have felt about that call. But number one, the political part of it, it was a condemnation of Hamas, right? It was the Jewish girl
And
it was showing the atrocities
celebrated
of Hamas, right?
Yeah.
So you can't accuse them of trying to make some political statement like we have been talking about all along what they're doing. The only accusation here is did they publish something that violates whatever our community standards are, and obviously the Jewish gentleman we have here, it violated his. But I think in a deeper discussion, as horrific as it is to see that, it probably serves a purpose of bringing home to all of us a little bit what the atrocities and the horrors of that situation looks like.
And I mentioned whenever I bring up my graphic knowledge of how abortions are done and having seen those in my training, people will get on me for that. Randy, you don't have to get that graphic about it. Well, a lot of Holocaust survivors will say they want the pictures of the mass graves.
That's right.
They want or else you forget. And so I understand, and I think I side with you on this.
Well, it's real easy in a sanitized world to go along la and have your opinions. I think this brings home some. Now, if you're the member of that girl's family, I understand your emotions. It's horrific, and I can understand your feelings about it. But I think in a bigger picture,
I've got one from years gone by, and as somebody who worked as a news photographer back in the day, back in the 1970s, people might remember the photo of the napalm girl. From Vietnam, the naked girl running down the street with flames coming off of her in Vietnam. The photographer was a really young guy, was a really young combat cameraman, and he won the Pulitzer Prize with that one, and that one was big time open to a whole lot of criticism for how graphic she was, frontal nudity and all this, of a little 9-year-old victim of a napalm bombing in Vietnam.
Well, just the other day, that Fox News guy was doing a report on Trump's trial, remember? And this guy, Max Azzarello, whose Twitter and social media file indicates he's a big-time conspiracy theorist. The guy was clearly messed up, right? He said the fascists are coming to, well, maybe there's some sense to it. But he set himself on fire, and they cut away from it right away. When they all of a sudden in the background, the reporter's talking. He's not on camera, but he's talking, and you see this fire. And then when he says, "Oh my gosh, get a fire extinguisher," that's a human on. They cut away. So they made an on-the-spot, moment decision there because we don't want to see a man burning.
What they view as news and what they view then as gratuitous, and that's the decisions that have to get made every day. And sometimes they're going to make one that you agree with, and sometimes you're not going to agree. And I think that's part of the. But Marsh's point, I think, is that goes exactly to the point of what we're talking about here. The picture took great criticism and it won a Pulitzer Prize, and as looking back upon it, it brought home the horrors. Of the Vietnam War, and that serves a very valuable purpose.
So, John, I didn't know you had a photojournalism aspect to your career. Do you recall specific instances where you would have to, call off your desire to get that gritty, bloody picture for, just to keep it above the fray, or what?
Well, I think Mike talked about it. It was pretty much the unwritten thing of gruesome things from auto accidents that. A lot of times in fatal auto accidents, the thing is you don't even put up a picture of the wreckage of the vehicle a lot of times. And, that's just kind of the unwritten thing on that. I mean, when war correspondents have a little bit different angle and a different take on it.
Yeah, there were some local news outlets. I don't want to call anyone out specifically.
Come on.
A few months ago in Centralia, there was a teenager who unfortunately passed away in a car crash. And local news outlets were posting photos of the crash in the mangled car, and they took a lot of heat for that online, and they never took the photos down that I'm aware of. But it did kind of feel like an interesting choice for the local news to take.
If they're not showing like the bodies or some type of gratuitous, I keep using that word because using it to sensationalize, that would be wrong. But I don't have any problem with them showing a horrific car crash, the images of it, because I think it's has news value, and I really do think it. You can't sanitize the world, and I don't mind my kids seeing pictures of a horrific car crash. I've been to so many of them. I certainly have a feel for them, and I think it's a good thing.
And as it relates to the outrage that Dan expressed, I think he's processing it through that prism.
Correct.
I get it.
Correct.
From my prism as a non-member of the Jewish community, but a supporter of full and severe and swift retaliation and elimination of Hamas for what happened on that day, that to me only inspires me to support it more, because it shows the horror of these people celebrating that. I mean,
Agreed.
that horror, that's animalistic behavior.
And that's the value of the photo.
Yeah. So interesting conversation. I did want to talk a little bit about this story. Did you see that a mistrial was declared in the case of this guy who defended his ranch down in Arizona? This guy was put on trial for murder, and it turns out that it was a mistrial. I'm trying to find the story here. Here it is. And the guy, I forget the guy's name. Oh, Randall. But this guy was in trial in Arizona, and it was a mistrial. I was worried that you now cannot, with an invader that comes onto your property and into your house and threatening you, that you can't defend yourself. To me, this was a blow for freedom. I don't know if you saw that story.
75-year-old George Allen Kelly.
Yeah. How old?
75
Yeah,
years
75.
old.
Defending. I mean, and he's not the only rancher and property owner on the southern tier. I know people that live down in that area, and they are well aware of stories, maybe 2 or 3 degrees removed, but these are credible people. They say, look, this happens daily. These people are trespassing, invading. If it's a partially occupied, maybe a little ranch hand house, burglary going on all the time. It's chaos.
The Terminator, right? That's the robot flamethrowing dog.
It's called the Terminator. That's what he needs.
I'm sure this man had no doubt in his mind. He thought of it earlier, and if he's put in the wrong position and somebody's in his space, in his house, I don't think this was a split decision. It had to be made, and I don't see how anybody can. Well, I get the argument. I get when they try him or charge him, but I'm glad the right thing happened here.
Yeah. I think, Mike, I know you and John are going to be keeping your eye on in your respective, venues here as far as what's going on in the campuses. We have Lincoln down there. We have, the Fulton next door. We've got other campuses. Mizzou, I'm just interested to see if this contagion of these protests. I keep circling back to this. This is haunting me. I fear this thing may grow into something much larger than life.
It'll be real curious MU's response too, because I don't think at the upper levels of MU's administration that they would be open to this kind of nonsense. Mm-mm. So I hope they don't get put to the challenge here.
I wonder if Moon Choi knows that a professor tore down a flyer on an advertising board.
I suspect he does.
Well, but if the letter went to Dr. Gibson, the director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, that bothers me that there's an office still, because they're being eliminated in the public and the corporate sphere across America.
It's going to take time. I think it is beginning to happen, but it took a decade to roil up to this, maybe more than that. It's going to take another decade for the pendulum to swing. But it will be curious. I know the tendencies here in Columbia. We will see.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Mike. John, what's on your plate as we move along here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri?
Well, if you came looking for pee jokes, you're in the right place. kingdom with flows that even put elephants to shame. They use their little proboscis like a tiny straw, about the width of a hair, to suck the liquid out of the trees they live in and spend their entire lives drinking year after year. As one bug specialist puts it, it's a hard way to make a living, and all that watery sap has to come out the other end, and boy, does it. Cicadas are king, being 2 to 3 times stronger and faster than elephants, topping out around 10 feet per second. In the Amazon, there's a tree the locals call the weeping tree because the liquid flows down like the plant was crying. Yes, it's cicada pee. The entomologist said you walk around the forest where they're actively chorusing on a hot, sunny day, and it feels like it's raining.
Oh.
So the question it prompts is, if the cicadas take over, would you call in the SWAT team? And now you know the rest of that story.
Oh, my gosh. Oh,
Randy
my gosh.
said he had bad dreams about poo falling from the air from your segment yesterday, John. But I'm telling you, this is going to give me bad dreams. I already
Keep you out of the woods, won't it?
I am already dreading just the noise that is coming with these silly bugs. And
this is
to know,
like once in a couple decade kind of noise.
I remember it from my childhood, John. I forget, what was the last year? Do you guys remember? It was horrifying. And so I'm already dreading the awful noise. I don't like some people have to have background noise all the time. I don't like this extra noise. And now to know that I have to deal with the noise and the pee.
Well,
no,
we
thank
have the
you.
recipes there if you want to make the deep fried, stir fried
So
cicadas.
now you want me to put these pee things in these things that won't stop peeing? No, thank you.
I remember when we had the big one, and that was years ago, and I was raising bird dogs at the time, and Dusty, the Irish setter mom, ate every one of them she could get her hands on, and the vet said, yeah, apparently the dogs are delicious.
Well, as you're
Good for Dusty the dog.
Yep.
as you're describing the
Reached a compromise.
But there's some really important stuff that affects so many of you, whether you're currently a parent of a child in school, or maybe a grandparent or uncle, or aunt. And that is the education bill that passed. And to help us unpack that is Susan Pendergrass, who is from Show Me Institute. How you doing, Susan? Thanks for being with us.
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
So, Susan, I've been taken on the chin here because I was having some fun John was talking about cicada pee and educating us.
The only person you're taking it on the chin from is yourself.
No, from the ladies here. They're like, well, you old man, listen to this music. Now, Susan, certainly you remember this song.
Baby, it starts to rain.
You may not have been born, but being the educational person you are, interested in all aspects of culture, humanities, history. You know Neil Sedaka and Laughter in the Rain. It was top of the charts for months. Right?
I know that song. I'm not young. I know that song.
You're not young? You appear young on your
sadly.
Pictures. Were they Photoshopped?
Sadly.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, I remember Neil Sedaka in that song. He was a pretty talented artist.
Those were the days when, because I was in high school then, and those were the days when we took education seriously. Teachers were not as encumbered with state and federal rules on teach this, test that, teach to the test. I remember my teachers inspired curiosity and the love of learning, and just their passion for learning. It was contagious. That's the only way I can put it. And I think that I'm hoping that some of what's in this bill may help, at least with the charter schools, restore some of that, or is that pie in the sky? Let's talk about it.
Sure. No, this bill definitely opens up choices for parents in Missouri, which is something I've been on your show talking about for some time now. The thing is, like you just said, 40 years ago, there was a report called A Nation at Risk, and it's like, we're going downhill, what to do? And in the last 40 or 50 years, we keep trying to, I hate this term, but like fix the airplane while we're flying it, fix it from within, tinker at the margins of this system we have. And in so many places across the United States now, 10 states, what we've seen is a pivot to what if we shift the institution itself, and rather than sending all this money out to school districts and hoping that they spend it well, give money directly to parents and let them go out and select the education that's right for their child. And Missouri is, we're getting there. We've made some baby steps this year. And in this bill in particular, we have a scholarship program where students can get about $6,500 in a scholarship to go to a private school of their choice. And what this bill does is it basically opens up the eligibility for that to almost every kid in the state. It used to be just in our 10 largest communities, so that is gone. It is for students with disabilities and low-income students, but the low-income category was raised to, where of a family of four making, I think it's $150,000. So it's really raised that cap so that most kids in the state now are eligible for the scholarship, which is great. Unfortunately, the scholarship dollars have to be raised through donations. So, and they raise the amount that we can raise to $75 million, but these scholarship granting organizations still have to go out and hit the street and raise the cash in order to fund these scholarships. But if that happens, that is an expansive change to the program in terms of having everyone be eligible. And, our neighbors, Iowa, Oklahoma, Arkansas, they did a similar universal school choice, but the state funds it. They are paying for it. So that's something I'd like to see happen in Missouri. Didn't happen yet. Then you mentioned that now there could be a charter school in Boone County, which is a pretty big deal. Charter schools in Missouri were passed in the 90s for only unaccredited districts, just to give kids in some of our worst districts, like a lifeboat out. You could go to a charter school, and it was seen as this, either punishment or rescue operation. Boone County, the districts are all fully accredited, like Columbia, 93 is there. And this would mean that a charter school could open that would be more of an addition to our portfolio of schools rather than a lifeboat or a punishment. And that's something that we really need in Missouri. And I'm excited that the districts in Boone County can be the examples for the rest of the state. In debating the bill, they yelled that it was poison and it was going to ruin the public schools in the county. I mean, the end of public schooling as we know it in Boone County, but I see it as a very positive.
So, as a mom, I remember before my kid even started school saying, I wish there was a charter school. And now that kid's in sixth grade. I mean, time goes really fast. What's the time, for folks in Boone County, when could I expect to be able to send a kid to a charter school?
So there's a couple different things. Normally it does take few years, unfortunately. First, you have to have a group of teachers, parents, citizens who want it and have an idea for what that charter school would look like. And then they put together an application, and those have gotten, honestly, longer and longer. We know from the beginning of the charter school movement, when they were scrappy and they opened in a shopping center and, the parents were providing the lockers and stuff like that, that's not the best model for a charter school. We now know that they need to start strong to stay strong. So the applications have gotten, longer, and you do have to have a commitment to filling seats. And there is money available for the first year or two of planning and implementation through the federal government. But you got to get the ball rolling. And I have an op-ed hopefully coming out soon, but there are so many types of charter schools, and I don't know what Columbia 93 would be a good addition to their portfolio. Could be a dropout recovery school, could be a school that targets kids who are 2 or 3 grade levels behind, or could be a classical or language immersion or personalized learning. I don't know, but for folks who are noodling on it, it's best to get started as soon as possible because it does take some time.
Susan, it seems like there's various categories of schools. Is there an other category? I mean, okay, I'm thinking, what if Stephanie and I and the leaders here on the and listeners all wanted to get together, sort of the Hillsdale Prep Academy, a charter school. You know what I mean? It would be about constitutional principles and founding principles and basically the Patriotic Academy of Boone County. Could we do that?
Yeah, so there are charter schools that are semi-connected to Hillsdale. Hillsdale doesn't take any public dollars. So there's a sort of Hillsdale tangent set of charter schools through the Barney Initiative, and they are all classical academies.
Okay.
That means in kindergarten, you're learning Latin and Greek and studying the classics, and you have to follow this curriculum, which parents love. To your point, it is the basics. It is, kids come out of it so well prepared for college and employment. But sure, you guys could get together and start something similar to that or back to basics. There are so many types of charter schools that you can't really put them into boxes, but there are project-based. The Audubon Society has charter schools. There's outdoor schools. There's agricultural-focused charter schools. But, the possibilities are kind of limitless, and it's, again, what the community wants and needs. And the one thing that I seriously doubt is that a charter school will open in, for example, Columbia 93, and it'll look just like the Columbia 93 school, right? That's the one thing that's not going to happen. And a lot of the folks there were like, oh, these kids are going to get trained out and there'll be a duplicate system that we have to pay for. That is not generally the case. The charter schools are unique programs. They have a limited amount of time, 3 to 5 years, to prove that they've got a good model, and they have to fill the seats or they close. So while lots of folks will be like, well, charter schools close all the time, yeah, that's how it should work. They have a limited amount of time to get it right. And then the other option would be that, there are a lot of very well-known, high-quality charter school operators across the country, like KIPP. There's actually so many of them, Harmony, IDEA, Achievement First, High Tech High, that they, you could, or BASIS, which is a network of extremely challenging, high-performing high schools that are usually top 10, U.S. News, at least 3 of them. Yeah. And they have, professors teaching class. They are very challenging for the students. You could go out and try to get one of those operators to come in and not start something from scratch.
That's the expertise and the voice of expertise, Susan Pendergrass from Show Me Institute, showmeinstitute.org. But by the way, Susan's piece called A Win for Education Missouri is on the digital Above the Fold homepage of showmeinstitute.org. Joining us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning.
Susan, you commented on the opposition in Boone County from Columbia's public schools right down to southern Boone and Ashland. It was just last month they sent out a joint letter of opposition. I think even the Columbia School Board president sent out a thing to Columbia school employees saying charter schools here could cost you your jobs. Is there any validity to those comments?
Yeah, I saw that letter. Well, it's just so funny because it's very contradictory, which is like, we don't need charter schools because our schools are so good and our ACT scores are high and we already have lottery schools and we don't need a charter school. But if one opens, all the children are going to flee like rats from a sinking ship. So I'm not sure which one it is. They also had like an estimate of how much money without any idea of what we just discussed, of what a charter school would even look like, how many kids it would enroll. You know, if it did, for example, if you did have a dropout recovery charter school, those kids are currently dropped out. So there is really no way of knowing until you get the pulse of the community to know what type of charter school districts might want. However, to the point of, I think Mizzou may have challenges in attracting high-quality professors because not everyone wants to enroll their children in the Columbia Public Schools. A charter school could be like an additional piece to a portfolio of schools that attracts families into the district, and they bring money with them, right? So it can be, if you're open to it, and this happens across the country, and charter schools and their district schools might share buses or share special ed services or share lunch services. It's a collaborative, there's a collaborative opportunity there. And the Columbia Public Schools school board and president drew a hard line in the sand that they are anti. They see it as us versus them. And that's really too bad because, in my opinion, charter schools have been around for 30 years and there's 8,000 of them. So, and there's plenty of rural and suburban ones. It's an opportunity to offer families something that might encourage families to move into the district.
Now, one criticism of this bill that I've seen, and I think, it's hard for conservatives, but in order to get some of these education reform pieces passed, maybe the education establishment was appeased by the influx of a lot of funds. And so the price tag on this total bill is much more than where we started. And so, knowing and being familiar with Show Me's work and limited spending, I mean, overall, when we have to weigh the increase in funds versus getting education choice, you think we ended up in the right spot?
I mean, of course, this bill has things I like and things I don't like, and I guess that might be the sign of a good bill. But the bill sponsors made a point of listening to the opposition, to helping, to trying to understand what they needed in order to pass this bill. And, people crossed the aisle to pass this bill, and they took political risks to pass this bill. And I've been on this show and other shows saying, once again, the Missouri legislature did nothing. And that was very much on the table this year, just like what happened last year. So I am glad to see, while it is a 150-page bill, and yes, there's lots of stuff in there, and in the end, it could potentially be expensive. A lot of those estimates are either zero or a lot of money, depending on how you look at it. But it could potentially be expensive. But I'm just glad to see that the legislature got something across the line and brought it to the governor's desk that expands school choice. And this also did get made, right? So there's things in there that are expensive. But I think that overall, it's a step forward for Missouri.
Susan, in the half a minute we have left, I want to remind folks that the Show Me Institute's having an Insider's Hour featuring And you're going to be among the speakers?
Yes.
You'll be, what's going to be the focus of your talk? Decline to sign?
I'll be there on behalf of Missouri Stands with Women. You can go to Mo Stands with Women, our website, to check it out. But yeah, our whole focus has been decline to sign. And of course, the signature deadline is coming up very quickly, May 5th. So we're under, what is that? Less than 2 weeks.
Well, one of the organizers of that event is Kathy Fork, and she joins us now. Kathy, welcome to Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Oh,
thank you. This is such an honor. Thank you.
Well, no, it's an honor to have you. And this is such an important and pivotal, and especially at this time, it's always important to celebrate and protect life. But I mean, this year when the political winds are blowing so strong and they are funded so heavily against life, it's a big deal this year, maybe bigger than it's been in a long time.
Well, that's kind of how we look at it. We had no idea when we set this date a year ago that these things would be happening. But here we are.
Tell us about the event and, when does it start? When, what's featured and what can people expect next Wednesday?
Yes, next Wednesday, May 1st at Missouri State Capitol. Things will be going on all day from 8 o'clock in the morning and ending at 2:30 in the afternoon. And you can come for all or part of it, whatever you desire. We start the day with prayer and also a book signing by Melissa Oden. And then we will have a live performance by Claire Huntley at 8:45, and the rally will begin about 9:15. And there will be presentation of some team play awards to the Pro-Life School of the Year and also Champion for Life Award. The Knights of Columbus will be having a fundraiser lunch at 11 o'clock until 1 o'clock, and the march will begin right after the rally. So that's probably about 10:45 to 11 o'clock. We also will have a youth rally, which will be given by Reagan Barkledge of Students for Life of America, and Megan Mastro from Arizona will be also speaking at that, along with Chuck and Linda Raymond with Silent No More. There will be a ballot initiative in elections, How Life Wins, presented by Dina Espenscheid of the Leadership Institute. And the day will conclude with a 1:30 Holy Mass at St. Peter Church right across the street from the Capitol, and an ecumenical prayer service in the Capitol Rotunda with Dr. Wes Fowler of the Missouri Baptist Convention. So we have things going on all day long, and we have over 30 life-affirming organizations that will be with us. This year, we're really pleased to welcome Live Action. They will be tabling with us, along with Turning Point USA. And then we have other people that I'm sure you're familiar with, Bot Radio Network, Pregnancy Help Center of Central Missouri, and also Lake Ozark, Sidewalk Advocates for Life, Students for Life of America, Support After Abortion, and Thrive Nation.
How many people are you expecting? Yeah, I mean, what's the crowd like? And it sounds like this year might be bigger than ever. But how incredible would that be to drive by the Capitol and just see a sea of pro-life supporters? How many people do you think you're expecting?
Well, last year we had about 3,000, so we anticipate anywhere between 4 and 5. And I mean, just this morning at 7:30, I got another call from down by Springfield. A gentleman had seen this in the Catholic publication there, The Mirror, and he was all excited about it, and he's getting people in his parish to come, and he was just like on fire to come. So people are still finding out about it, and thank you so much for putting us on the air so that we can let other people know about it. Thank you.
Well, it's very, very important that people are aware that there is an opportunity to have their voices heard, have their bodies seen in support of the preborn. Boy, now more than ever, those unborn are so threatened. As ironically, in the wake of the Dobbs decision, so many states have actually seen any restrictions just go the way of, the dodo bird, and now unrestricted abortion almost in Kansas and in Ohio and others. And we've got to do what we can to fight that. You caught my attention among many of the people that are be there in the groups. Of course, our own Stephanie Bell will be speaking during the rally. You mentioned Live Action. And I don't know if many people remember or recall that Live Action was founded by Lila Rose, who has a very compelling story. herself involved in the abortion industry. And I mean, you talk about 180-degree and a vociferous voice now against the abortion industry. So some powerful players at this event. It all starts early in the morning. So folks can listen to us on the way down there, and then the grounds open at 7:45, the rosary at 8 o'clock, and prayer walk at 8 a.m. So, yeah.
And I think it's cool. I know that you're giving out some awards, and your School of the Year award is going to go to a Jefferson City school. I see. So that's neat to see as well.
Yes, that is. And then the Champion for Life will be going to Brian Westbrook and his wife, Marisa, and he's the executive director and founder of Coalition Life, and he's doing amazing things. And actually, he might share a little bit about how he may be going to the Supreme Court about a bubble zone in Carbondale, Illinois. Wow. He's an incredible person, yes. And we are pleased to have Stephanie with us speaking, along with Gabriel Cobb. He's a Tri-21 triathlete and motivational speaker. He's spoken at the UN. And our own Brandy Meeks of Vitae, Ivy Allman with Support After Abortion, Nate Robertson with Sidewalk Advocates for Life, and of course Dr. Wes Fowler will be speaking. And the keynote, Melissa Oden, and Susan Klein with Missouri Right to Life will also be speaking. So we've just got a wonderful lineup. So, it's going to be a wonderful day. The weather's going to be 83 degrees and partly cloudy.
Wow. Well, and if people want to learn more, what's your website?
It's very easy. MidwestMarchForLife.com. MidwestMarchForLife.com, or you can call 417-344-7118. That's 417-344-7118.
We're talking about the Midwest March for Life with Kathy Fork, who's one of the organizers of that event, here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Kathy, the group Missourians for Constitutional Freedom, as they call themselves, we just heard the other day, they raised a lot of big bucks in the last quarter out there trying to get, 170,000 signatures, trying to get their ballot issue out there. And if it was approved by the voters, I think the word is abortion would be legal up to the point of fetal viability. Is this something you see Missourians supporting at the polls?
Oh, with all of the money pouring in from outside sources, 7 states have been faced with this dilemma of putting it in the Constitution, and all 7 have failed. And so I know that your listeners join me in praying for the defeat of these signature gatherers, that they would not be able to get these signatures that they need, because it's a lot easier to defeat it now than it will be if it does get on the ballot. So, yes, and, that fetal viability, that is determined by the healthcare provider. And a healthcare provider could be an LPN, a podiatrist, anyone in the healthcare industry. It is not a doctor. It does not say doctor. Well, it says healthcare provider.
And as you've pointed out, Stephanie, there are provisions in there that would forbid the legislature from restricting anything if it involved the health of the mother. So that could theoretically even mean the mental health. If someone had anxiety, they could say, I need an abortion at 32 weeks.
And in fact, many of the pro-life laws that are that we've elected pro-life leaders that they've put in place over many years, many laws protecting women's health, the measure actually says they're presumed invalid, anything that would even delay an abortion. So it's scary stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation and misrepresentation of exactly what that petition is about when you're being asked to sign it. So that's why more and more people, Stephanie, I know you're vocal in that, and many of our political leaders and others are very active in the Decline to Sign movement. Hey, well, thanks for being with us, Kathy. We wish you the best on that event next week, the Midwest March for Life, and the website's MidwestMarchForLife.com. Easy to remember, and it'll be a lot of fun and a lot of very, very compelling information there. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Randy, and thank you, Stephanie. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Wow, that's important. I hope we see a lot of bodies out there.
It's a busy time at the Capitol. I mean, I don't know that I've seen an event with 3,000 people, so that's going to be really exciting to see that big of a crowd there. I know, Hannah, I think that's also the day of Buy Missouri Day, right? For that we talked to the Lieutenant Governor about.
Yeah, May 1st on the 3rd floor rotunda. I think he told us there was going to be about 50 Missouri-based businesses there, and so that'll be cool to see as well.
I mean, that's one really nice thing about living in mid-Missouri, right? You don't have to make a really long trek to go to the Capitol and participate in some of these things that, you really are, that really can affect your everyday life and that are really important. And so it's nice. I've been by the Capitol several days this week, and I know almost every day they've got events going on. So make sure you're paying attention and make sure you're getting involved.
That's right. No, these are always the kinds of things when you look back and an issue that is very important to you, you didn't get involved in it. It's one of those, woulda, shoulda, coulda, what was I thinking? And so get active if you are concerned about the unborn, because like she said, and like we know, and like we've reported, the pro-life movement has not fared well in these various constitutional initiatives across the land. Let's see if we can change it up here in Missouri. Mm-hmm. When we come back, we'll open up the refrigerator, see what's on the leftover shelf.
I click a button and it randomly plays one from our archive.
But it's good stuff. My kids listen to disco. There's something about my kid. Well, because they know good music. Those were the days with the horns, when they had horns in bands. It wasn't just good. Nothing against guitars, but it's like a bow on the package when you have a horn section. No.
Chicago.
Okay. Chicago. Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Tower of Power. Those were the days. Those were the days. Another thing, as I have random association here, Edith and Archie. Remember that? Great. You couldn't make Edith and Archie All in the Family. Couldn't do that these days.
Couldn't now.
All right. Now, we were talking, getting back to serious news, we were talking earlier with Dan Swindell about what's going on the campus there, and about how the Jewish community held a little protest outside the Reynolds Journalism School. And, John, we were talking about that award that they gave as one of the photos of the year to that horrid picture of the celebratory Hamas murderers in the front of the bed of the pickup truck with this body of this Israeli girl who had gone to the music festival, was killed, and then they had disjointed her legs, and it was just a horrid picture. And the debate was, and you as a photojournalist you really had to make those decisions, right, when you were doing that. Do you do that to tell the story, or do you hold back? How do you know?
I'd have to side with the Reynolds Center on this one, because it was, it was horrific. It was horrible. It was like war. And it kind of tells the story. I mean, think of some of the famous war photos, especially maybe some of our older family members. Think back to the picture from Vietnam of the Buddhist monk who set himself on fire. You mentioned Kent State earlier, the student's body on the ground. Yeah. And the kid who took that picture was a student photographer who earned a Pulitzer Prize for it. Probably the most classic war photo of all time was the one that Robert Capa took during the Spanish Civil War, where there's a picture of the soldier at the moment of his death falling over backwards.
Oh, right. Yeah.
How about the Twin Towers, the falling man falling from the Twin Towers, which garnered an Associated Press award. And I think one for the older folks, like Stephanie could probably ask Pops about it, the picture of the Saigon police chief during the Tet Offensive shooting the Viet Cong guy in the head.
Oh.
And that won a Pulitzer Prize for Eddie Adams, who was a well-known war correspondent. I have a friend, my best friend from college, Ola Tony. Capasa Mikapas, who shot for UPI during the Nicaraguan Civil War, and he had some pretty grim photos in his portfolio.
Am I imagining this, or wasn't there a graphic photo of the My Lai massacre as well? I thought.
I think there was a famous one of a troop lighting a hooch on fire with a Zippo.
Yeah, something
that was famous from that era.
Yeah. So, and I know a lot of Holocaust survivors. I've heard them speak, and they are avidly in support of the terrible images coming out of the Holocaust, because they don't want people to forget. So, it's an interesting debate. I guess at a time it can become gratuitous, but in this case, I agree with you. I think it is one of those definitely worthy of photos in the year for all the right reasons.
And the photo that the Reynolds Center gave their award to went on to win an Associated Press Team Photography Award as well.
Okay. The other thing we were talking about...
Win's the right word, awarded. Probably
yeah, right, to win. Now, Hannah, you were talking on your segment about the, was it the Terminator?
Yeah.
The flame-throwing robot. It's pretty impressive. You look at there's a little video on there. It's
a robotic dog that you can purchase for $9,400, and there's even free shipping.
Well, get a load of this. I found this video of Tesla humanoids with guns firing at a Tesla vehicle. I guess it's some kind of an armored vehicle. Listen to this.
Yeehaw. Your weapon, sir.
That's one.
Thank you, steward.
Robot handing a robot.
Fire in the hole.
Okay, so he just fired at an automobile. Another robot gets out of the automobile.
I'm alive.
I'm alive.
Awesome. Way to go.
That's 3 robots.
We are dead. We're dead.
Sounds like a remake of RoboCop to me.
I mean, that is frightening stuff. It's like the armorer robot hands it to the other one. Your weapon, sir. He takes this Gatling gun. He shoots at the car. The guy gets I'm alive. Oh, no, fire in the hole before he shoots.
He holds the gun up over his head like, woohoo. That is scary. That's frightening. All right. In state news, we did get a vote on the landfill compromise, I believe, yesterday. A lot of people are cheering about that. They are going to pass the legislation to change the boundary. If you recall, I think it was half mile. They're going to back that up to a mile to protect our neighborhoods. And some people are claiming that it's a win for property rights. I'm not so sure about that, but they did come to a compromise